Good morning, everyone. This is the All About Nothing podcast kind of daily show. I am Barrett Gruber, host of the All About Nothing podcast with Zach King. You can follow me on social media across all of social media at Barrett Gruber. With me is Bill Kimmler, host of Black, White, and Blue in the South with Dr. Jameel Brooks. You can follow him at politicalbillsc. Two of the sharpest bulbs in the bag.
Wow. Are we a pair of bright knives as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pair of the brightest knives in the bunch?
Donald Trump was at Fort Bragg, which is now Fort Bragg again, because I guess it went from Fort Liberty to Fort Bragg again.
Yeah.
And
did you hear he renamed a base in Florida Fort Hitler? Like he reverted that back. He says, well, why wipe out history?
Welcome, Bill. How are you?
Good, man. Good. And you keep bringing up Zach. Where is this Zach, this mysterious Zach we keep hearing about?
So Zach was very close to joining us on the episode last night. But
why did he have to perform with Freddie McClendon somewhere? Is that they're stuck together?
That's another one who eludes my ability to retain in a position in front of a webcam long enough to get him on the show. Zach has said that for next week's episode, he will absolutely be back. So still 50-50,
Okay.
But we'll see.
Hey, listen, when you got newborn twins, there is no such word as absolutely, unless it's deprived of sleep. That's the only thing you can put after that phrase.
That is probably one of the most honest things that anyone in the history of the earth has ever said.
Yeah.
Twins are not easy. Real quick, help us win best local podcast in Columbia, South Carolina. It's simple. Just hit the show notes, visit theallaboutnothing.com and follow the link and vote for us. So Bill, RJ May is currently in the Lexington Detention Center being held.
We got a tiptoe, I think, around this topic. I was thinking about this morning. If you don't want to get a community violation, we have to be very careful about the words we use, right?
Agreed. Let's
so RJ May, you said, is in a detention center, but can we actually say why without triggering some algorithmic penalty?
So yes, what he is being held for, the charges that reportedly the charges are child endangerment and trafficking.
And see, even those words I didn't know we could use.
Close. Yeah, child endangerment and trafficking. He is so just to give you a little background description in case this is your first time hearing this. RJ May is a South Carolina House Republican representative from District 88, which is the district that represents me in the state House legislature here in South Carolina.
Can't believe Barrett voted for this guy to get in office. I am just astounded. You are part of the problem, Barrett Gruber.
Bill, I thought when because I saw that you made the same comment on multiple news sources on Facebook, that to point out the fact that the voters here in District 88 had very specific knowledge available to them. I'm not sure that all of them knew it, but
so I think this raid on his house where the federal government came in and confiscated like 92 pieces of electronics. Like this guy had a bag of USB drives, and other portable drives. They came in and confiscated it all. And this was like June, July, August. And then the election was November. So there was lots of headlines, lots of news, lots of knowledge about what this guy was. And they still voted him in. They said, yeah, we good.
It is crazy. Now, I don't want to give too much credit to the voters here. They didn't really have any options. We have a mutual acquaintance who had been on the ballot for a very short time for the Democratic Party, had made it through the primary, but he did pull out because of his job. And he could not make the commitment to it that it would have required, which ultimately, I had said to him, I think I didn't think he should have dropped out because his job told him he couldn't run for office. That's ridiculous. Your job can't tell you. They can certainly make decisions post your decision, but that doesn't mean you can't run. But RJ May ran basically unopposed. There was a brief candidate for write-in, but he didn't make enough. He didn't get enough votes to even be put into the election results. Like his name didn't
What a
appear.
loser.
So
whoever attempts a write-in campaign, loser.
It wasn't me. Not for that one. It was the Senate seat. It was the I did say write my name in for the Senate seat because pipe dreams, whatever.
Remind me, who was it that attempted the write-in for the House seat? I forgot.
I'd have to go back and look. I feel like his name was Brian or something. I can't remember. But it was a very, like I said, he spent some money. He apparently the guy that did, he had considerable amounts of money available to put into this write-in campaign to try and that was one of the things I didn't understand was the reason was he running because RJ May was under investigation or was, or was he writing in because he didn't like RJ May and wanted to run against him? I think it was probably the former. I think the likelihood is that he was running as an attempt to try and save the Republican Party image in District 88, which has been it's been Republican for longer than I've been here. So it's a difficult district if Democrats want to get in. But
so do you think let's say that a Democratic candidate for this state House seat was on the ballot, didn't drop out, was maybe a no name, all right, not a recognizable name, but was at least on the ballot. The news breaks over the summer about the federal investigation for child endangerment. And do you think that if that Democratic candidate had campaigned with the slogan, "I'm not under federal investigation for explicit images of inappropriate aged people,"
yeah,
do you think that person would have had a chance? Like if that was me, that would have been my only campaign slogan. I would have put everything I had into it, make it that like MAGA. It'd be just one message, not under investigation.
Yeah. So I think there are two things to consider. One is that RJ May won the district with about 70% of the votes being party only. They just pulled that party
straight ticket. Okay.
So that ultimately makes it difficult. Trump won this district. He won, I think it was like 67-33. So he won by about 34 points. That coupled in there, but in a situation where there is likely going to be a special election after the RJ May is removed from the House by the House Republicans, the likelihood is there's going to be a special election, and I'll just go ahead and say it. I'm considering going ahead and running for the seat. There has not been a more opportune time to do that. The likelihood is there's going to be extremely low turnout for a special election, especially in the summer here in Lexington, South Carolina. And I've already had a couple conversations with some of the I guess I would call them the influential party people here in Columbia last night. They called me. And
listen, Matt Villardo does not count as influential party people.
I think Matt
got to throw that out there.
It's a distance thing. He's influential, that's for sure.
But, true.
Yeah,
but party people, I think he gave that mantle up. He tried.
Yeah, no, the party person thing. He's definitely. But it's one of the things to consider is just the toll that it takes on your family, and that having been a candidate, Matt knows that.
Well, it was nothing compared to the toll this podcast takes on me. I mean, for crying out loud, I never had to get up 5 a.m. every day for the campaign like I do for this podcast. So if you can handle this podcast, you can handle a campaign just fine.
That was one of the discussions I had with so Bill Fry and I talked about it a little bit last night as well, because he worked in the State House a lot for the South Carolina News. He did a lot of interviews. He worked with a lot of people, and one of the things he said was, he asked me, he said, "Are you willing to go into like Republican strongholds?" There's a kitchen or a breakfast place here in Lexington that every Friday the Freedom Caucus holds a breakfast. or the members or people that are, I guess, adjacent or whatever to this Freedom Caucus. They hold this breakfast and they have speakers come in for the breakfast and things like that. Would you be willing to go and sit at one of those and speak? And I was like, fuck yeah. Like I said, look, when you go out and you do a podcast 3 times a week, you're literally putting yourself out there publicly. I have no problem with being grilled on the issues, because the way I look at it and is, so from our district standpoint, 3 of the big issues are going to be infrastructure, public schools, and small business. West Columbia is an area that is continuing to build up, and small businesses are a very big part of that. We don't have a lot of chain grocery stores and things like that, and it's the small businesses that really are going to thrive. I have a relationship with at least 2 of the mayors, both in Casey and West Columbia, and so I think that the opportunity is there, and a special election is probably the one. Now, will I win? Sub 40, high 30s possibility. But I think that it's also an opportunity to get out there and really shame.
Well, I'm going to ask the critical question. Voters. Are you under any federal investigation of any sort whatsoever?
No.
That makes you more qualified than your predecessor there.
I'm not aware of any.
Well, and we do get a little lighthearted on this show, but I do want to make sure we recognize the fact that this is one of the most heinous crimes you can commit.
100%.
And there are true tragic victims of this, of RJ May, of those who covered up for him or stood beside him as he spewed his BS over the years. There are true victims there. And it is a sad, sad tragedy that there are these type of twisted, demented people, and they get themselves into positions of power, and they cover up their crimes by spewing the BS that they do, so that they know will rile up base and get to stay in power. Jamil and I were just talking the other day about a state senator in Minnesota named Justin Eichhorn. Same story. This is a guy who campaigned. He was an elected senator. He campaigned against the Metro liberals. He stood for family values and Sunday church and all the traditional things. That next thing you know, he is arrested for child prostitution, soliciting child prostitution. And now he's booked in jail. He tried to get his wife to steal equipment out of his office before the cops got there. Just a vile human being who wrapped himself in the flag and family values. And when I hear a representative do that, that's where my mind immediately goes. I just go, It's just a matter of time before you're uncovered for the truth of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm exactly the same. Anytime I hear someone talk about when they divert or they try to distract with this this intense patriotism, or this intense, I have to protect the children, from books and from drag queens and all of these things that are just nonsensical. There's never been an issue with, and has just become not a Trojan horse, has become basically just a distraction from what actually is going on behind the scenes. And in this case, RJ May, who has been investigated, evidence has been collected. He is now in custody to be transferred to the custody of the United States Marshal Service. This is an individual who led the Moms for Liberty to try and
not just led, he received Legislator of the Year award from Moms for Liberty. They picked the winners.
He went and actually was part of a lawsuit against Lexington County School District 1 to try and fire librarians who wouldn't go through and do an inventory and remove books that the Moms for Liberty had decided should be banned. And
so a little bit of speculation here. When the investigation was announced last summer, I thought, wow, this is going to be wild. Then the November election occurred. He got reelected. Trump was back in office. The Freedom Caucus was, riding high on their own fumes. And given that this was a federal investigation, I had just assumed it stopped. Like I assume that because R.J. May was such a flag-waving Trump patriot, that the Department of Justice was slow walking or pausing or just not worried about, since R.J. May is not an immigrant, that they weren't worried about him and weren't going to let him go. So I'll be honest, I was absolutely shocked when the news broke yesterday that he was arrested.
Yeah.
And he had been very quiet in the state house. He showed up for votes, but he did not speak in any committee hearings. He would not speak, in any debate. He was quiet as a church mouse, which we'll take that as a blessing, but he was there casting votes when they were held in the chamber. So I just assumed he was going to get away with it and kind of work out his term, maybe not run again, and then just quietly go away. So again, to be jailed and to be arrested was a big shock.
Yeah, I think a lot of the reason that the investigation, and I imagine we will get more information as we go further along, because but I had, it was one of two thoughts. I thought the same thing, was that the possibility that he had been that he had gotten away with it, that the federal investigation was going to get shut down because now Donald Trump is president, and his Justice Department doesn't necessarily want to focus on, the Republicans that are out there doing their good work. So I thought, yeah, it's entirely possible that RJ may wind up skating free of this. But then I also had heard rumors that he may have been working with the investigators to potentially turn on others.
Where did you hear such rumors?
Let's just say they were discussed coming out of the State House.
Wow.
But and not necessarily that they're anybody that we would know, but some of these investigations, when they go after somebody who is participating in anything involving child endangerment and trafficking and things like that, there's always somebody higher up, and then there's always the people that are below. So it's the people that are receiving it, and then the people that are distributing it, and it becomes a network. I worked with a guy 25 years ago who was under investigation by SLED, and ultimately nothing came of it. They couldn't tie anything to him, because I don't know what happened in the end, or he turned in he gave up the people that he was involved in, who he had been recruited by. So that was sort of always my thought was, with RJ May, is he giving them names, or is it just going to get swept under the rug? If it had been a South Carolina SLED investigation, if it had been part of Alan Wilson's, it would have just been swept under the. I believe that it would have been just swept under the rug, because that's what Alan Wilson does. As the top cop in South Carolina, he has no problem with finding loopholes for friends. So, and I don't know if RJ May and Alan Wilson were friends. I'm not alleging that. I'm just saying that South Carolina.
Well, regarding this, Alan Wilson has been very quiet.
Oh yeah.
Just about all of the Republican lawmakers have been very quiet throughout the year. There have been surprisingly just a few, including your friend Brandon Guffey, who actually got up in the well and spoke out loud about RJ May being under investigation, which was a shock. But the fact that nobody in the Family Caucus or the Freedom Caucus had ever spoken out about this for a year. Yeah. Not one of them has gone, you know what, maybe this guy shouldn't be here and should step aside. Now that he's been arrested, Jordan Pace, the leader of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus, has put out a press release and calling on RJ May to resign. Says that he has been booted officially from the caucus. All right, great. Took you a year. Well done. All right.
Really on top of that.
Yeah. Democrats had always, kind of quietly referred to it, but even they weren't loud enough.
Yeah.
We on our podcast, we'd spoken about it at least once a month. We're looking for the RJ May update, because this is a big freaking deal. But in the House, none of them. The most flag waving family value guy, my representative, John McCravey, hasn't said a word. So they're all focused on what's happening in California right now. You talk about Alan Wilson. He puts out a statement 2 days ago warning people about far left agitators planning riots in South Carolina and that they would all be prosecuted. Like, he's preemptively trying to get people scared, trying to get them riled up. I think he's trying to recruit troublemakers to do his dirty work for him.
Well, I think he's also he's attempting to suppress what could potentially be large turnouts, because by coming out with a statement and saying that law enforcement will be on the scene to make sure that it stays civil, he's basically saying, look, we're already under the assumption that you all in these cities and towns that are going to have these protests, that the top cop in South Carolina is already of the belief that they're going to get out of hand. So here's law enforcement to surround you. And as has proven successful in virtually every protest that has already taken place over the course of the last several months, when you introduce law enforcement as a barrier, it incites a higher level of response from the people attending the protest. Now, I'm not saying that here in Columbia that there's going to be violence. I absolutely hope there isn't. And if there is, that is the moment at which I will leave, because that's not why I'm there. Once things turn from just a protest with speakers and standing on the side of the road with signs, not getting in front of traffic and not causing, I'm not saying what they're doing in Los Angeles or any of the other big cities is bad, but once you cross that line into it going from a protest into uncontrolled protest, I'll just use protest. I don't like riots. The idea of calling any of those riots is absurd to me. But once you cross that line, you lose the meaning. You lose the what.
No, you only lose the meaning if it is a liberal or democratic protest. If it's January 6th and you cross that line, you are glorified. You are treated as heroes. You are pardoned by the president. You kill some cops, no problem. So it really depends on which message you choose or in which party you're in, whether you lose people or not.
Yeah, it confuses me the difference between what an insurrection is to Donald Trump, or what his definition of insurrection is, because on several attempts over the last week and a half, he has called Los Angeles an insurrection and then very quickly backtracked it. I have a friend in Los Angeles who works for one of the local news affiliates for NBC, and he expressed that none of the protests are going anywhere near federal buildings. That there are no state house buildings. There are no state buildings that are under the threat of being damaged in any of these protests, and that the National Guard, which also, by the way, once Trump federalizes the National Guard, they are no longer the National Guard. Those troops that are added to the ranks are now officially United States Army service members. They're no longer National Guard. Now they'll go back after whatever, but everyone keeps referring to them as the National Guard, and they're not the National Guard anymore. But there's no threat to any state or federal buildings, so that's the only thing that they could potentially protect in these protests. So it doesn't make sense to me why they were called out unless there was a threat. January 6th, the Capitol building was under siege by 6,000 outside.
Remind me, who was president during January 6th?
I remember blonde hair, orange. Oh, it was fucking Donald Trump.
Yeah. So the same guy who felt like today he had the power to deputize the National Guard and deploy them across the country,
right,
didn't feel like he had that or the will or desire to do the exact same thing when his supporters literally torched the Capitol building.
Right.
He didn't want to do it there. So it is tough to take him seriously, and even worse, it's tough to take all of his supporters seriously, because they are going to have nothing but convenient amnesia. Now, the damage done in my favorite city of Philadelphia after the Super Bowl far exceeds what's happening in Los Angeles, and no National Guard had to be deployed there. I mean, there were far more Waymo cars burned after the Super Bowl win that night.
I've seen a lot of those memes about streets are on fire, buildings are collapsing, and Philadelphia won their first Super Bowl in 5 years or whatever. It's like, where was the National Guard?
Right. So it really is. It's a despicable show, and once you decide that your job is to go after Americans before you deploy your military to actual enemies of the state,
right,
we're lost. We are lost as a nation.
Yeah. And
I think I've heard that there's plans to do the same thing in 5 more cities. Like I've seen reports from sources inside that there are plans drawn up to do the same thing in Philadelphia and Boston and Detroit, Chicago, other northern quote unquote blue cities. He's looking to do the exact same thing.
What line is gonna have to be crossed for Donald Trump to send National Guard to Dallas and Houston? Because those are blue cities, and those are engaging in protest right now. Greg Abbott sits in his wheelchair and barely moves. Donald Trump will certainly take an opportunity to send somebody in there. He doesn't like Greg Abbott anyway. He can't recognize him when he's sitting 4 feet in front of him at his inauguration in a wheelchair where no one else is sitting in a wheelchair. Donald Trump is eventually going to start sending National Guard to red states with blue cities. And so what line is going to have to be crossed for people to start, people on the other side to start to say to themselves, holy shit, he's just as insane as the left was saying he was.
The only line that it crosses is when it hits you personally. I mean, take the viral video that's gone out of this woman who's a founder for Latinas for Trump.
Yeah.
And, we talked about this on Tuesday, video of her standing with Trump, supporting him. And now today she's saying he's betrayed us, and she is absolutely upset, even though everybody told her this is exactly what was going to happen. Now it comes as a complete shock.
Yeah.
So until it affects every individual, whether your Medicaid was ripped away from you, whether you've just lost your rights as a citizen to protest, regardless of party, if it hits you personally, that's the only time that the line will cross, because the mentality of the Republican Party is, well, if it's happening to others, that's fine, right? Yes. If it's happening to somebody else, I'm all for it. It's only when it happens to me that I'll get upset.
Yeah. Blue states blue states, red states, it doesn't really matter. Every single state in the entire country has protests planned for this Saturday, including Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska, Iowa, Utah.
Are you just going to name all 50 states? Is that what we're doing here?
We should do that one morning. See how many states we can name without.
I've played that game before, where with the kids, you say, all right, let's name all 50 states right now, and you try to rattle them off, and then you count, and you're like, all right, we got 47. Yeah. What 3 did we miss?
Yeah. No, I can do that. I went to school back in the time when, and you did too, but back when geography was actually one of the things that they taught, and you had to know the capitals.
Yeah,
you had to know their, the flags and things like that. So, I guess we'll transition it towards, I am going to attend the Columbia No Kings protest on Saturday from 12:30.
Good. I'll be waving to you from our No Kings protest here in Greenwood.
That's great. Is the same woman? Did she organize it for this Saturday, or
she reached out? Yeah, and so it's the same coordinator.
Awesome.
And we're expecting a bigger turnout now that we've already done one, and so many people said, "Oh, I wish we had known." Now they're paying attention, and I'm seeing the poster get shared, so I'm expecting a decent turnout. And it's right across the street from where a Juneteenth celebration is occurring all day.
Awesome.
And they have armed personnel to protect the Juneteenth ceremony. We're talking about some tough-looking groups that walk around with AR-15s in the open, because you're allowed to in South Carolina.
Right.
But let's just say that they're there on the protect the good guys. And so we're feeling confident that we've got the security and protection needed should anything get out of hand. So I'm looking forward to a peaceful protest. We're going to make sure we have a video stream going of the whole thing.
Awesome.
So should anything occur, we will have video captured of it in high res. Yeah. So we should be in good shape.
Columbia, South Carolina, on the State House grounds is, of course, a state no gun zone. So anyone potentially watching that is going, please.
Have we checked the weather? What is the weather like on Saturday?
It's not going to be great.
Oh no!
Pretty sure there's a good possibility of some rain, but that's all right. Ponchos, umbrellas.
Okay.
We're going to have some. I haven't seen the list of who's going to actually be speaking at the protest here in Columbia, but I suspect that it's going to be some of the regulars that go up there, including the organizers of the 50-51s. So, I ultimately, I think it'll be a good time to have people speak, and ultimately, nothing is going to change right away, but getting more people behind a movement to make that change is what we have to continue to support. And 2026 elections, we already have candidates announcing for the 2026 elections, and it's an opportunity as well to meet those candidates that are running. So if you feel inclined, just show up. If something turns into what Donald Trump wants it to turn into, leave. You don't have to stay. No one's judging anyone that leaves. It's, just be safe, be smart. Know that most of the police officers there aren't looking to try and hit somebody in the face or arrest anybody. It's not their intent. Even if the intent of our South Carolina top law is to try and get as many headlines as possible and as much footage so that it continues to beat the narrative or to continues to embolden the narrative that these protests are just violent. So that's my suggestion. See, two of the sharpest bulbs in the bag. That is going to wrap it up for today. Thank you very much, Bill, for being here. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in and listening and watching wherever you are. You can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern, because apparently sleeping in is not an option for, it's not an option for Bill. I could sleep in. Bill would have to show up, maybe. Could you do this, Byron? Could you do this?
Well, as you run for office, I feel like I'd be the only one left. So I may have to pull Bill Fry into this morning thing and make it the Bill and Bill show.
I would be entertained by that, but I think using the medium that I already have for for an election, I think that's not I think it'd be a bad idea to give that up. So.
Yeah, especially when you have the word weed spelled out on your right-hand side there.
Oh, yeah, on my right-hand side.
You're on the right-hand side. I say that's a good message right away. You've got my vote.
California weed. Fully support the industry. All right. Until next time, you all stay safe, be kind, and remember to keep your hands to yourself.